applause. Thank you, Christian. Welcome to the No Sugarcoat Postgame Live Show. Because tonight, there is no sugarcoating anything. This was a game the Denver Nuggets should have won. A matchup against a depleted Portland Trail Blazers squad, missing its top three centers, without Jeremy Grant, without their leading scorer Anthony Simons. Everything pointed to an easy path to victory. And yet, the Nuggets simply didn't show up. Early in the first quarter, there was a brief glimpse of what could have been. Denver jumped out to a 15-6 lead, then stretched it to 19-9. But Portland responded with a 10-0 run. And from that point on, the game was completely in their control. It wasn't just about execution. It was about effort, energy, and urgency. The Trailblazers came in hungry, diving for loose balls, battling on the offensive glass, forcing deflections, creating turnovers, and turning defense into offense at every opportunity. Meanwhile, the Nuggets lacked intensity, and in the NBA, where every team is filled with talent, hustle often beats raw ability. Tonight, hustle won, with Nikola Jokic sitting out. This was a test for the Nuggets' defensive structure. The common narrative is that if Jokic has a weakness, it's on the defensive end. But with him sidelined, Denver's defense was exposed in the worst way possible. The issues weren't just isolated to one or two areas. They were systemic. At the point of attack, the Nuggets failed to contain dribble penetration. Portland repeatedly drove into the lane with minimal resistance, turning straight-line drives into layups and drawing and one opportunities at will. When Denver did contest at the rim, fouls were too often the result. But the problems didn't stop there. Turnovers were another glaring issue. Time and time again, the Nuggets made careless mistakes, gifting Portland high percentage opportunities in transition. The Trail Blazers capitalized on these errors, converting 25 points off live ball turnovers. That's a recipe for disaster against any opponent. The numbers paint an even clearer picture. Portland finished with 64 points in the paint, exactly half of their total scoring output. When you allow that level of dominance inside, the outcome is all but decided. And if Denver wasn't going to play defense, maybe they could have at least hustled. But they got outworked in every category. Portland won the battle on the boards, securing countless offensive rebounds that led to second-chance points. The Blazers ripped away 12 steals and swatted 6 shots. It was a lopsided affair in every way imaginable. Offensive rebounding is about effort. Rebounding is about toughness. Rebounding is about desire. And tonight, Portland had all three in abundance while Denver showed none. The Trail Blazers didn't just outplay the Nuggets. They outworked them. And when you get outworked at this level, the consequences are severe. Portland took 11 more shots than Denver and finished with a higher field goal percentage at 54%. That's a direct result of the Nuggets' inability to secure possessions, make the right decisions with the ball, and contest at the rim. At times, it felt like there were 10 Trail Blazers on the court and only 5 Nuggets players. That's how overwhelming the effort disparity was. And here's the reality. This wasn't a masterclass in X's and O's from Portland. They weren't running elaborate sets or exposing Denver with intricate play designs. They were simply putting the Nuggets in pick-and-roll situations, getting favorable matchups, and attacking the paint with relentless aggression. Denver had no answer. If this was frustrating to watch, imagine how infuriating it was for Michael Malone. And speaking of Malone, he didn't hold back in his post-game comments. He called this performance an embarrassment, a joke, and he's absolutely right. With just 11 games left in the season, this is not the level of effort a team with championship aspirations should be showing. He pointed to the standings, to the fact that if Denver continues down this path, they'll be fighting for their playoff lives in the play-in tournament. And honestly, he's not wrong. At this point, it's not just about execution. It's about accountability. Each player in that locker room needs to look in the mirror and ask themselves if they're willing to do what it takes. Because right now, the answer seems to be no. The Nuggets didn't play with pride tonight. They didn't play with urgency, and they paid the price for it. One player who didn't lack urgency, Denny Avdija. Last year, some might not have even known how to pronounce his name. This year, everybody knows it. Avdija has been on a tear, and tonight, He torched the Nuggets for 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists while shooting a scorching 12 of 16 from the field. This is back-to-back 30-point games for him, following up a dominant performance against the Grizzlies. Avdija is evolving into the centerpiece of Portland's rebuild, a 3-level scorer who plays with physicality, poise, and confidence. If the Blazers are looking for a foundational piece, they may have found one, and this is the kind of effort Denver allowed to dominate them. The Blazers only made 14 three-pointers in this game. They didn't even have an outlier shooting night. They just play harder. That's what makes this loss even more frustrating. Malone was seething post-game, laying out the numbers that define the disaster. 51 points given up off turnovers and offensive rebounds. 18 blow-bys allowed. He called it exactly as it was. Portland ran the same simple actions all night, and Denver had no response. He challenged his team to recognize what's at stake. He warned them that continuing to play like this will lead them straight to the play-in tournament. And when asked if he was worried about how the players would take his criticism, he didn't care. And he shouldn't. This is professional basketball. This is a championship-caliber team playing well below its standard. If a player is upset about getting criticized for lack of effort, what are we even doing here? This isn't about emotions. This is about accountability. Now, the reality is setting in. The Nuggets are only 3.5 games ahead of Minnesota, with 11 games remaining. That gap can close quickly. Houston is up next, and if Denver brings the same level of effort, another 20-point loss is inevitable. They still have matchups with the Clippers, Grizzlies, and other playoff-hungry teams. The margin for error is gone. Michael Malone spoke the truth tonight. Now, it's up to the Nuggets to decide whether they want to listen